Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, they, he, she, and today's pick is Colin Kaepernick, Change the Game, by Colin Kaepernick, Eve L. Ewing, and Orlando Caicedo, a graphic biography published by Scholastic's graphic imprint in 2023. I'm not a sports person at all, but when I saw this on my library's new acquisition shelf, I found myself pretty intrigued. Plus, when I picked it up, I also hadn't read a middle grade comic in a hot minute, so here we are. Content notes for the N-word, a Confederate flag, and racist adoptive parents. Keywords that came to mind reading this nonfiction volume: race, family, community, sports, school, and coming of age. The summary is, quote, Colin Change the Game is an inspiring high school graphic novel memoir for readers 12 and up from celebrated athlete and activist Colin Kaepernick. High school star athlete Colin Kaepernick is at a crossroads in his life. Heavily scouted by colleges and MLB as a baseball pitcher, he has a bright future ahead of him as a highly touted prospect. Everyone from his parents to his teachers and coaches are in agreement on his future. Colin feels differently. Colin isn't excited about baseball. In the words of five-time All-Star MLB player Adam Jones, baseball is a white man's game. Colin looks up to athletes like Allen, talented, hyper-competitive, unapologetically black, and dominating their sport while staying true to themselves. College football looks a lot more fun than sleeping on a hotel room floor in the minor leagues of baseball, but Colin doesn't have a single offer to play football. Yet. This touching graphic novel explores the story of how a young changemaker learned to find himself and never compromise. How the right decision is very rarely the easy one, but taking the road less traveled can make all the difference in the world. End quote. Looking at the writing, I feel like it's pretty safe to assume that Kaepernick probably didn't write this book. Not a judgment, just my general understanding about how these sorts of things go. That said, considering this is a story that he put his name on, I was actually pretty surprised by how negative it felt like it went, and I certainly respected it a lot more for it. Given the tenor of this book, I'm sure everyone who is actually a fan of Kaepernick is probably already aware of the contention between him and his adoptive parents, but it was nice to see someone willing to not just play nice, although the whole kneeling thing was a bit of foreshadowing, I suppose. Anyway, I'll talk about his parents a bit more later. Looking at the person who probably took Kaepernick's input and put words to page, Eve L. Ewing is, quote, a writer, scholar, and cultural organizer from Chicago, says her website. Other comics she has written include Ironheart, Monica Rambeau, Photon, and Black Panther. It definitely reads like a middle grade graphic novel in many ways, but as you might have guessed already, I did find it very readable and interesting, so points. Looking at the art, it was also very solid, not really breaking the mold in any way, but is that necessary? Not every single time. Illustrator Orlando Caicedo was apparently born in Colombia, raised in Atlanta, and currently lives in Frederick, Maryland. He describes his style on LinkedIn as, quote, producing artwork that is alive and action-packed, filled with movement and mayhem, emotion, and excitement, end quote. Looking at the different intersecting identities present in this work of graphic biography, as I do, race obviously took up a lot of space, particularly because of the troubling ways in which Kaepernick's white parents tried to erase his blackness. Some examples I wrote down in my notes included his dad criticizing his watching black athletes, and his mom, after Kaepernick started to explore protective hairstyles, saying he doesn't look professional. There's some super awkward conversations where his dad seems to be quizzing Kaepernick on who he finds attractive. I assume he was trying to steer him towards white women. His mother tries to pressure him to take a white girl to prom, but the dad could also have been worrying he was gay. Insert sarcastic, oh no! Unsurprisingly, Kaepernick's parents don't stand up for him when the people around him make racist comments. In contrast to this, we do get a window into Kaepernick's relationship with his grandfather that seems like it was a lot more positive and affirming. I also appreciated that we got a peek into what it meant for young Kaepernick when his grandfather passed away, a common experience for many children, but often gets overlooked in literature for young people. There was also some discourse around larger issues of anti-black racism, particularly how black athletes are described in comparison to how white athletes are described. Looking at gender and sexuality, we obviously face a lot of limits since we are focused on one apparently cis and heterosexual man. That said, I felt like we did a pretty decent job characterizing his main romantic interest, Tiffany, showing her as not only nice and supportive of him, but to people in general, and pretty capable. Less surprising, although still nice, Kaepernick shows himself to be a pretty awkward yet hardworking young man, not naturally smooth talking with the ladies, but someone who put in a lot of work to succeed in both sports and in his relationships. Class felt sort of there, but not really discussed. Ability versus disability and place were totally ignored. One of the most surprising things for me as a know-nothing before picking this volume up was that Kaepernick apparently spent most of his high school sports time in baseball, trying to break into football. This is the main plot arc of the book, with the volume concluding when Kaepernick gets recruited by the University of Nevada before jumping forward to his kneeling on the field. A solid and interesting read. I give it 3 stars. I would have appreciated it covering a bit more stuff around his later career choices. Bye y'all, keep reading, and remember that colonial settler states are a lie! And Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, an Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.